very self, you can do so at my Ko-fi page. Link in the description below, where you'll find all my other links and descriptions and whatnot that, correspond to this video. So go ahead and grab yourself that. If you'd like to request a monster to have a look at on the channel for Tales of the Valiant, go ahead and leave me a comment in the video, because that will help the algorithm overlords here at YouTube and potentially get me pushed forward. Although from what I've seen about D&D content creators, that's no longer happening. So, if you're here watching this, thank you for finding me, because that's about the only way you're going to do so. YouTube's not going to promote me anymore. And probably not that they really were. Also, if you have this tool and you haven't seen my Ko-fi post, the tool has been slightly updated, so no longer do we have to worry about the condition immunities here. This is working correctly, and that's been taken care of. So the tool is now in version 1.2.1. Alright, that's pretty much it. If you'd like to support the channel, you can, again, get the tool at my Ko-fi page, where you can get it completely for free, or you can donate if you feel so inclined to. Also, you can donate here at the channel as a YouTube member, where you'll get videos beforehand, early for memberships, and otherwise you can then also donate monthly at Ko-fi, where I will be doing extra things there as well. Still working all those details out. But anyways, let's get into this monster. Now, you'll notice some things have been changed due to recent events. You'll have to follow along at home to get the proper information. So, if you want to see the stats that I'm working with, you're going to have to go and get your copy of the Monster Vault from Tales of the Valiant and switch to page 64 in the book, or page 66 if you have the PDF. And you can follow along with the monster, or just take my word for it. So starting from the top, we have ourselves a Bulette, or Bulette. It's a CR5, so we'll go ahead and first reset everything from where it was beforehand, and go ahead and drop in CR5 here. We are expecting our Bulette, or Bulette, to be a proficiency bonus 3. 14 to 16 AC, 120 hit points on average. This will be modified. 6 to 8 attack bonus, 38 to 43 damage per round. That's total with all attacks. And then a 14 to 16 save DC if we have one, which I'm pretty sure we do with Deadly Leap. Okay, so let's go ahead and start throwing in all of our information here. We do have an armor class of 17, but we'll go ahead and throw in the stats first. So we have a modifier of +7, and then a dex of 0, a constitution of 5, intelligence of -4, 0 for our wisdom, and a -3 for our charisma. Now, we may have to update some things here based off of the monster sheet here, but from the looks of things, as I'm looking at the attack action for its bite with an attack 2 hit of +7, that looks like everything's fine and we don't have any kind of save proficiencies. That's the only thing I'm not too keen on for Tales of the Valiant, is that they don't show if you're proficient or not. You just kind of go with what's on the stat modifier section. Beyond that, my life is pretty easy beyond going forward. So we do have an AC of 17, so we'll have to go here into the bonuses section and add a 7, which means we are 1 above our 14 to 16 expected AC for a CR5. Now, this will result in a negative change here that we see already. So we have a -5% hit point modification due to our AC being ever so slightly higher for a CR5. And then we are looking at 108 hit points, which is the target we want to hit. We do have a speed of 40 feet or burrow of 40 feet. So we'll go ahead, come down here, and we will switch this to 40. Doesn't necessarily matter as long as it's not below 30. Everything else is fine in regards to creating the tool here. If you were printing this out for a monster you were creating, as per these little green boxes here and the print button at the top, you would want to make sure everything is included for your home brewery code that you can use very quickly to bring the monster to life. Next, we have Perception of 16 and Stealth of 10. Again, for our purposes here, that doesn't really matter. We do have a Resistance to Bludgeoning and Monster Resilience, which we will look at in a second. So we'll go down to Bludgeoning and add that into Resistances. Now, we don't make any differentiation between Bludgeoning, Piercing, or Slashing. If you have one, you technically have all three for the effects of building out the monster and getting in the proper modifiers here. So we can just move on from there. Actually, while I'm looking at it, since I don't have to worry about jumping up and down. Monstrosity Resilience results in the Bulette is resistant to exhaustion and to the frightened condition. Now these are only 2 conditions, so we don't necessarily need to worry about adding them in, but just for the sake of showing you the tool here in action, we will go ahead and throw in exhaustion, which is right here. We are, what was that, immune? Resistant, okay. And resistancy to immunities and such, or excuse me, resistancy to conditions just means you have advantage for those checks. And then also the frightened condition. So we have resistance here and here. Now, as you'll see where this new dash mark is here for creatures with resistance or immunities to conditions, we only have 2. This isn't triggering the 3 that we need minimum. If we had anything more than 3, it would only be a -5%, unlike in the past where if I had 6 or 9 different types of condition immunities or resistances, then it would be multiplying that -5, which, as far as I'm concerned, was incorrect. All right, so moving on, we have Dark Vision and Tremor Sense in the senses area for the Bulette, and that doesn't necessarily matter for our purposes here. That would be important, again, if you were printing the Monster to Home Brewery. All right, and then we have in the traits area, the features for our monster, we have the Monstrosity Resilience, which we've already covered, and then we have Standing Leap. The Bulette's long jump is up to 30 feet, and its high jump is up to 15 feet, with or without a running start. Good to know. That will come in handy for, in the game, but not necessarily for us here fighting, or not fighting, but creating the monster or checking out the, going through the CR here to make sure it's proper. Alright, so we now move on to the actions. Now, for our actions, we have, let's see here, a multi-attack. The Bulette makes 2 bite attacks, and the bite attack has a +7 to hit. So at the moment, we are looking at, looks like things are a little off here. So our weapon bite says +7, which means our strength modifier is definitely not a 7. The strength modifier is a 4, and we add proficiency, we are now getting a 7, which is part of the stat block in the beginning of the Bulette here. So now when we come down to our strength bonus here and we see for our attack bonus we have a 7, this is correct. So we do actually have to make small adjustments here and there. The constitution is probably fine at 5. I don't think it would be a 2, but in this case we don't have any way of comparing to see if that +5 is correct or not. Maybe the Bulette does have a 20 for its constitution modifier. Since we don't have the actual numbers, we don't really know which way it is, but it's not that important at the moment. So moving on, we do have the +7 to hit. We have a 5-foot reach on the bite, and the hit is going to do 3d10 plus 4 piercing damage. So just for the sake of going through all of this here, we'll go ahead and throw in a d10, add in a strength modifier, and see that we have a 20.5. Even though the average says 20, because we have 3 odd number of dice, the average comes out to an extra 0.5 of dice. Again, if you're unsure as to why this is, take your d10, add up all the sides, 1 to 10, then divide by 10, and you'll end up with 5.5. That's the average for every die. It always has a 0.5 there. So that's the attack. We do have a multi-attack here, but we will first go ahead and transition this over to our attack sheet here. The 20.5 goes in place. If our attack had any kind of riders here, conditions, we would update that, but because we don't, the attack is just 20.5. But we do have a multi-attack, so we will go ahead and put this into the multi-attack section here, multiply that times 2 for our multi-attack, and we will see that our attacks are actually dealing 41 points of damage because of that half. Instead of 40, 41. Not necessarily a huge difference, but when we compare it to the expected DPR of 38 to 43, we are pretty close to almost shifting out of the CR5 range for our Bulette here. Now let's take a look at its Deadly Leap. The Bulette leaps up to 30 feet, diving onto a point it can see or sense within that range and landing on its feet with a thunderous crash. Skipping ahead a little bit, all creatures within 10 feet make a strength save. On a failure, the creature takes 14 or 4d6 bludgeoning damage. So we will go ahead and throw in 4d6 there, which gives us the 14 that we're expecting, and an additional 14 thunder damage. So we can just repeat that. We don't have to actually go through and mark that twice in here. So we will just say this times 2 for that. And because it's creatures within 10 feet, let's take a look at the short range note here I have. So is the radius of this AoE, which area of effect for a deadly leap is an AoE, 10 feet or less for the radius? Well, it is 10 feet from the point that the creature lands. So technically this is a short range AoE. We are going to go ahead and click this and reduce it from 56 to 42. So our deadly leap is only dealing on, you know, in theory, only 42 points of damage. And this works out for the short range here to be 1 save and 1 failed save rather than 2 failed saves as per normal. And then from there, we have on a success, the creature takes half the damage, isn't knocked prone, otherwise they are knocked prone along with the damage. Any creatures in the Bulette space is pushed into an unoccupied space within 5 feet. If no unoccupied space is within range, the creature instantly falls prone in the Bulette space. So that's all of that. Then we also have a bonus action, which I believe is new to the Tales of the Valiant Bulette here, which we have Seek Prey. So let's go through this one here. The Bulette looks and sniffs around for new prey, releasing a satisfied guttural chirp when it settles on one. One creature the Bulette can see or sense within 30 feet of it that can hear must make a DC 15 whiz save. On a failure, the target is frightened until the end of its next turn, and the Bulette has advantage on the next attack roll. Okay, so this is a bonus action. Let's review some of our bonus action stuff that we have down here. We have this one in particular that I'm looking at. So when we open this up, we are going to see a bonus action, legendary action, reaction that paralyzes, petrifies, stuns, makes unconscious, or otherwise makes a PC lose a turn. So this doesn't actually make us lose a turn. We are just either gaining advantage or, frightened, and we don't really have to worry about any kind of modifiers. Okay, so we don't really worry about frightened like we did in 5th edition. 5th edition has the frightened condition for certain levels, but in Tales of the Valiant, they don't have anything for that, since frightened can be more or less mitigated fairly easily in most cases. So we don't have to really worry about any kind of feature there for that. Alright, so with Seek Prey pretty much done and pretty much inconsequential to the CR of our Bulette here, let's go ahead and finish up our rounds of attack. So in theory, round 1 we would be doing our multi-attack, AoE, Deadly Leap, starting off the attack. And then with a recharge of only a 5 or 6, unlikely that we would see the Bulette recharge in the first 3 rounds of combat, which is generally how you want to calculate all of these. So rounds 1, 2, and 3. On the following rounds, we're going to do our multi-attack, and we're going to get 41 for each of those. And simply see that our Bulette has an actual DPR of 41. So between all of this, right now we're looking at pretty balanced, which is great to see. Our attack bonus falls within the expected range of 6 to 8, and our expected hit points, let's see here. We should be subtracting about minus 20 hit points, and for our hit points here, okay, I see what's going on. All right. We have 120 hit points that we're expected, which is this value right here. Our adjusted is 96. Now, in the book, they have 108. So what's the difference? Why am I seeing something a little higher than they are? Well, first of all, I'm calculating for the resistance to bludgeoning and so on, and then there's also a double here. The creature has only one type of damage to which it is resistant or immune, and below CR8 the creature is resistant to bludgeoning, piercing, and slashing damage from non-magical attacks, and this is the only type of damage which it is resistant or immune to. So this is probably where a bit of the problem is coming from. This seems to be overlapping. Now the question is, which of these is the proper way to go? Is it CR19 or lower with only one type, or is it below CR8 and has resistance, bludgeoning, and piercing? So this might be another update I have to look into. This one's always been kind of a little sticky to me, like which is the proper way. So let's go ahead and remove this, and just for the sake of it, throw in acid, which only gives us one item here. Alright, so we have acid, and we are now looking at 108. So this, we have bludgeoning. I honestly think this one should be the correct one, because the creature is resistant to bludgeoning. Oh wait, I see. It's resistant to bludgeoning, piercing, and slashing damage from non-magical attacks, and this is the only type to which it is resistant to. That's curious. I might have to extend this range a little bit now that I'm talking out loud. This might need to be bludgeoning, piercing, and slashing in one, but when damage is marked in this way, bludgeoning, piercing, slashing counts as one damage source. I'm gonna have to look into this a little bit more. I'm gonna say probably more or less that this is accurate for the time being because we only have the one bludgeoning type, and it's not bludgeoning, piercing, and slashing. It just only has one type of damage immunity here, or resistance. Yeah, okay, so we see the mark here for the star. Technically that would count as this, but because these are both going in here, I'm gonna have to work this out a little bit more and adjust this a bit. All right, so with that, it looks like our Bulette for Tales of the Valiant is accurate for a CR5 monster. With just the one resistance, everything looks good, and yes, you can go into your games of Tales of the Valiant thinking this is a perfectly balanced monster. So until next time, folks, I will see you next time.